One of the hardest things to do when building an online business is to build a brand. It's also the most generic advice marketing gurus will give you when they run out of ideas. But the company behind WordPress managed to build a very strong brand with the e-commerce plugin WooCommerce over the years. If you ask people who run online stores if they know WooCommerce, they'll say absolutely, and they probably considered it for their site alongside other solutions like Shopify or BigCommerce. So after spending years building that brand with their hard work and sweat, the marketing team over at WooCommerce came up with the most Elon Musk-esque move you can think of. They decided to rebrand the company, and that's when everything started going very, very wrong for them. One thing we want to point out is this is an incredibly fast-moving story. In the 2 or 3 days that we've worked on it, from writing the script to collecting screenshots and ultimately filming it, the data in Ahrefs and even the subs have changed rapidly as we're also in the middle of a core update right now. So if you see a few inconsistencies in the screenshots, that's why. All right, let's get into it. For the sake of clarity, Automattic did not build WooCommerce. They acquired it back in 2015 from the original South African developers who created Woo themes and built out the store components, launching it in 2011. The success of WooCommerce is hard to deny. Depending on your source, it's either the number 1 or number 2 online store platform on the internet alongside Shopify and has approximately 6 million stores running it. The acquisition of WooCommerce was a big play for Automattic because it gave them a solid revenue stream alongside WordPress.com to underpin Matt Mullenweg's vision of what WordPress as an open source product could become. And quickly, if you're not familiar with WooCommerce, it's an extension for WordPress that adds product displays and shopping cart functionality to your site. Over the years, WordPress teams have adapted and have added customizations specifically for WooCommerce, and WooCommerce has built a very robust and lucrative premium plugin model and marketplace for third-party developers and themselves. In October 2023, WooCommerce was receiving about 350,000 average organic monthly visitors according to Ahrefs. But for some reason, Automattic decided to switch their branding and redirect their domain away from WooCommerce.com to the much shorter Woo.com. They released a tweet and wrote a blog post about it explaining some of the rationale, and we'll talk a bit more about the blog post later because you'll see it's a perfect showcase of the shit show that's happening right now on their site. Essentially, the team at Automattic thought that Woo was a catchier name, it was a shorter domain name, and they believed that their customers were largely already referring to them as Woo anyway. So on November 1st, 2023, they flipped the switch and redirected everything to the Woo.com domain name. And traffic, yeah. Oh dear. Basically, as of the end of March 2024, their traffic is at less than 30% of what it was the months before they made the change, at around 125,000 monthly organic visitors, according to Ahrefs. So that switch didn't go very well for them. And if we jump ahead to this past week, the team at Woo has decided that on April 9th, 2024, they were going to switch back from Woo.com back to WooCommerce.com, waving the white flag just 5 months after migrating domains. In a blog post released earlier this week, the team said that they would be reverting back because the migration from Woo.com created challenges for our users to find WooCommerce in Google searches. And surprise, surprise, they also said that the Google March 2024 core update exacerbated that problem, so we'll circle back to that in a minute. The team at Woo says that they have consulted a group of SEO experts and consultants, and they have come to a conclusion that this is the best thing to do for the WooCommerce brand. And there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, if you have a massive brand on the internet, particularly one with the domain authority of WooCommerce.com, which according to Ahrefs is DR93, deciding to change it seems like a pretty high risk. And it isn't like WooCommerce rolls off the tongue awkwardly and that it's not a brandable name. So you could ask, what did shortening the name Woo really offer to them beyond the risk? Not very much it seems, but there is a recent precedent for a large company having successfully pulled this off. In February and March of 2021, fintech company TransferWise made the decision to transition to the new brand of Wise and switch their domain name, which sounds strangely familiar now you know the Woo story. At the time of transition of their domain name late February of 2021, TransferWise received about 9.6 million organic visitors, and by June 2021, Wise.com had recovered all the traffic from the transition. This was a great example of a well-executed domain migration, and Wise has pushed on to some new heights now, pulling in about 50 million organic visitors over the last 30 days thanks to some clever programmatic SEO play. Let us know in the comments if you'd like us to break it down for you. So what went wrong with WooCommerce? There likely isn't one simple answer, because if there was, you know they'd likely have moved to heaven and earth to try and fix it. But we can say without question that their move has confused Google through probably a few mistakes they've made. As of March 2024, 4 months after their migration, WooCommerce.com, according to Ahrefs, still generated more organic search traffic than Woo.com by about 50% at 65K to 43K. It's as if Google did not know which site was which and just split the authority, often ranking both domains for the same keywords but lower down. Probably the best example of this is the term WooCommerce. You see that WordPress.org's plugin repository ranks number 1 for the term, followed by Woo's homepage at number 2, and down at number 3 is WooCommerce.com for their themes category. Prior to the move, WooCommerce.com had always held the number 1 position for its brand name WooCommerce, which obviously makes sense. For something that started as a branding exercise, this loss is quite epic. And traffic implications aside, when you switch your branding and change your domain name and you lose the number 1 ranking for your flagship product brand name, you can tell that's a giant mistake. And amongst all of these during the transition, the site lost keywords. Lots of keywords. On October 31st, 2023, when WooCommerce.com was beginning to be transitioned, it ranked for nearly 125,000 keywords. But if you look at Woo.com, on April 7th, 2024, the day before the transition back happened, you would see a pretty bleak picture with just shy of 7,700 keywords being ranked for, down from around 38,000 before the Google March 2024 core update started rolling out. Now, if you're doing the math at home, even at its peak, Woo.com wasn't able to recapture about 70% of the keywords that WooCommerce.com was ranking for on the day it migrated. So something didn't flow through correctly with the migration. Another thing that is obvious is that over the last several core updates, Google has been taking away keywords from the site that they probably shouldn't have been ranking for in the first place. Terms like Stripe Express login or shipping slots, these are fairly generic terms that WooCommerce.com had ranked for in the past, but Google gives and Google takes away. And they didn't really deserve to rank for a lot of these, so losing them was probably just fine. But still, something went cataclysmically wrong, and the team at Woo has decided that the safest course of action is to revert back and 301 everything back to WooCommerce.com. This change is, of course, a massive gamble, because what happens if you scramble Google's algorithm some more? And at first glance, for their move back, they're really going with a sledgehammer rather than a surgeon's scalpel. This is the original notification about the move to Woo.com back in October that was posted on the blog, and even a Gemini Pro answer makes more sense than the opening paragraph at this point. It looks like they've just done a find and replace across all the old content, replacing Woo.com with WooCommerce.com, which creates this very disturbing post. Now, it's tough to criticize people when something has gone off the rail as badly as this migration has, but this is starting to look like they are panicking a little bit. Which takes us back to the notion of risk. They decided to rebrand and migrate domains amongst one of the largest periods of turmoil and changes that Google subs has ever experienced, according to Moz's recent study. So it's not hard in retrospect to second-guess this decision. And Automattic are not a small fly-by-night operation. They run WordPress and WooCommerce. They have some big-brain people over there, and you expect them to be able to build a website properly given that their software powers most of them. I mean, ask yourself the obvious question. Would you have made this choice at the time that they made it? Probably not. The upside of changing your company name from WooCommerce to Woo just seems impossibly small to measure, and the downside, well, we see the downside now. Over and over again though, we keep coming back to what went wrong. Poring over the data available from Ahrefs, nothing obvious jumps out, and I think that's why they were so puzzled and didn't know what to do next. But due to the fact that affiliate URLs were still ranking on Google, probably because they did not move their affiliate program that was hosted on WooCommerce.com, and these URLs were indexed and responsible for quite a bit of organic traffic, I'd probably look in that direction. In my opinion, Google never really registered the move, as WooCommerce.com still had active URLs and the authority was just not transferred properly to Woo.com in Google's backend. And the result? That's what we saw. I know it's not very scientific, but in a lot of ways, Google is a bit of a black box that we try to reverse engineer based on patterns and things that we can observe. It's going to be fascinating to watch over the coming months to see if WooCommerce recovers as it transitions back to the original domain. But this story should be used as a cautionary tale to all of you. Domain migrations are no joke. no matter how big your authority, if you trip in a carpet, you're fucked. So what do you think went wrong with that change, and how do you think this will play out? Comment I believe if you think that they'll recover, and comment no way if you think WooCommerce and Google are over at this point. Oh, and don't forget to leave a like and hit the subscribe button to help tell YouTube that we're worth sharing.